When you're a little bird surrounded by larger predators, you need to have a strong support network to fend off the baddies. Just like Flik in A Bug's Life, the least terns have realized that there is true strength in numbers. By giving much stronger opponents the business as a group, terns can turn away even the fiercest of predators. But sometimes, standing your ground is the best way to survive here in life, death, and taxonomy.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal information. I'm Joe.
And I am Carlos.
Thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, please search Cassie Michelle on YouTube or Spotify.
And thank you to Brian for the creation of this week's artwork. To check that out, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter at LD Taxonomy, or visit us at our home on the web at ldtaxonomy.com.
And today we're talking about the most direct path imaginable. But more on that later.
Yes, the fewest number of degrees.
Yeah. But what does that mean? I said more on that later, but more on that now. Because we're talking about the least tern. It's not T-U-R-N, it's T-E-R-N.
Yeah, it's a method of surveillance. You don't turn... You just follow with your eyes. Just
Scan,
yeah.
It's a bird. A tern is a bird. Tern is the word and tern is the bird. And the tern was with bird.
Yeah. This was a recommendation from Becca from work.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for recommending this, Becca. She's an avid animal lover and sometimes sends some good ideas my way. So this is one we picked up.
Have we done the puma yet? Like, that's her favorite, right?
Her favorite is the Florida panther.
Yeah.
And we have not done that yet, no.
Ah.
There's not a ton of information about them in the wild because they're so difficult to study.
Interesting.
But yeah, we should probably pick that up. For sure, but it's called the least tern, but that is a weird thing to call an animal. So instead, we're gonna call it here crass hysteria, the maverick moblin, the feathered rude boy, the dung defender, and Twitter.
Twitter. Good.
Yeah. For reasons I'll explain later.
Would you like to know what
And not just because it's a bird.
Calls it?
Yes.
Science, the scientific method itself, calls it kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata. The class is Aves. You know this.
Mm-hmm.
The order is CH. Is that a K?
It could be a K, a Ch, or a Sh. Like charades.
Charadereformes.
Charadreformes or
charadreformes.
Or crad reforms.
Well, let's see what the lady in the
computer says. You have a lady trapped in your computer.
Carriage reforms.
Carriage reforms?
Carriage reforms, yeah.
She doesn't even pronounce the E at the end? It's Latin.
Carriage reformes.
Sure.
Carriage reformes. Because there's two I's. Then the family is Laridae. A lot easier to say.
Mm-hmm.
The genus is Sternula. And then the species is Antillarum. Sternula antillaria. I'm putting in an I. There's no I. There's no I in Antillarium, except for there's one.
You'd be forgiven. Sometimes is it reptilia or reptila? Who knows?
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
But yeah.
Sternula antillarum.
It seems like we're not in the business of naming things, so let's.
Sorry, I am just staring at my my audacity to make sure it doesn't stop. Since we're in the business of naming things, it's time for my favorite part of the show. Cue the music. Critter groups. The part of the show where I ask you, Joe, a question, and the question is the same every time. What is the name of a group of this animal? What is the term of entering? Or what is the collective noun? It's all the same. And I love doing birds because there's always... ornithographers have all kinds of fun names for groups of birds. And so there is a specific one for terns. So, Joe, if you saw a group of terns doing what they do in the major fact, would you call it A, a committee of terns, B, a round of terns, C, a shanty of terns? D, a pickening of terns.
A pickening? A shanty? A what?
A round and a committee going up.
Now, I don't know what they do in the major fact, because I don't know what the major fact is.
Oh, I didn't put that in our communal sheet.
This will be a surprise. But it sounds like whatever you're saying has to do with them being in a community. And I don't have anything on that, so I think we're good. Man, I want it to be shanty, but I don't think it's shanty. I guess I'll go with pickening.
Final answer?
Yes.
Incorrect. The answer was committee.
Committee.
It's a committee of terns.
I've also heard them, people say they live in colonies too. Should have went, it's pretty adjacent. Committee, colony.
It just, as I was reading it, it occurred to me that I put shanty at C, so sea shanty. That's why I was laughing.
Oh.
I was like, what is a sea shanty?
But a shanty is a good...
with a drunken sailor?
That was a good one. That would be an actual good one for a seabird.
Yeah. This would be pretty good. A shanty of, albatrosses or something like that.
Yeah, I hope that's real. Somehow, some way. Would you like to know what this thing looks like?
Yes.
Least terns are white, gray, and black seabirds that always wear a hat and sunglasses. Keep yourself protected from the sun. In fact, it's the opposite. They are attracting sunlight to those black tops of their heads that connect to a black bandit mask that covers their eyes and leaves a white space on their forehead. And that is a telltale little feature. If you're looking for least terns and you see just a sea of seabirds, then that signature white forehead tells you it's a tern. At least tern.
A sea of seabirds on the sea selling seashells for Sandy's also selling seabirds seashells.
Exactly.
That went really well.
Yeah, you got through it. They have gray on their backs and on the tops of their wings and black wing tips. They have yellow feet and yellow beaks, but there's a slight black tip to the beaks. They stand completely horizontal, so that's another unique feature. A lot of seabirds, like seagulls, kind of do this too, where they're not upright, kind of like you see birds of prey and crows kind of stand that way, perched. Mm-hmm. But these guys their bodies are horizontal, almost like a duck. Must be a water thing. You're evenly weighted so you can be buoyant.
Yeah, allows them to rest on the water, keeping their heads above it.
So in flight, you can see the sharp features of their pointed wings. Their tail feathers also come to 2 points, like the rock and roll hand sign. Kind of looks like that. Where on each...
The devil hand sign?
Yeah, on each... Like if you take your palm and you put your two center fingers down, there's two protrusions.
It's the go web go sign.
Yes, go web go. Although when he says go up go, he's not doing the one that works, right? So it might not. It's just the
No,
Spider-Man.
no, it's the one where he's doing the devil horns.
Oh,
but
and he's
forward.
Oh, yeah.
And then he flicks it a couple times.
Yeah. I remember. Chicks are fuzzy gray and white dust bunnies with black specks on their beaks, on their backs, not on their beaks. But since we are talking about what they look like, they are quite small for a seabird.
They are the least.
They are the least. So let's talk about how least they beast. Welcome to the Beloved Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show. The part of the show when we present the animal size and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you. When you send in an audio of yourself saying, singing, or chittering, the words measure up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We don't have a new measure up intro this week, which means it has to be introduced by an aminal. And that doesn't know what it's doing.
An aminal?
Yeah.
An inanimate animal?
No, an animate animal.
An anemone is not an inanimate animal. Goodness. We're all about the tongue twisters today.
It's a tongue twister episode.
At least I am. All right, bring it on.
Without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show. So there's two sounds there, and I think they're both coming from the same animal. One is like kind of sounds like cards in a bicycle wheel, and the other is like your typical bird screech.
Oh, so, I was hearing the a mourning dove coo.
Oh yeah, there's also that. It's not the mourning dove.
Okay, that was going to be a huge. Your hint, like, oh, there's two sounds in here, and I think they're from the same animal. I was like, oh, mourning dove, answer. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't know mourning doves can make that kind of screech, but I guess they can.
So, is it A, moorhen, B, an American kestrel, C, an Arctic skua, or D, a windchat? All birds.
Boy, I don't know.
But they're very different kinds of birds. A moorhen is like a little fowl. A kestrel is a bird of prey. A small bird of prey. Arctic skua, I think that's like a seabird. And then the windchat, I forget what the windchat. I think it's like a robin looking thing. Looks kind of like a robin, but it's an African and Asian.
I'm going to go ahead and rule out the Arctic one because I did hear a mourning dove in there, and I'm pretty sure doves don't hang out in the Arctic.
That's a pretty good deduction.
Moorhen is probably pretty good. It kind of sounded like a bird of prey screech, so it could be a kestrel. I'm between those first two. I'm going to go with kestrel.
Kestrel, final answer.
Yes.
That is correct.
Nice.
A moorhen, I've seen these around. If you go take a walk by a lake and around here, you can see these little guys wading in the water.
Oh yeah. I thought these were scops.
Maybe that they're called that as well.
They're close relatives of coots.
Yes. But let's get into wingspan. They're 50 centimeters to, which is 20 inches or thereabouts. How many wingspans was the longest ever flight in an airplane through a tunnel? A tunnel being a ground tunnel that cars usually go through.
Someone flew an airplane through a tunnel?
Yeah. Here's a hint. The Italian daredevil Dario Costa. Great name for a daredevil.
Dario Costa, yeah.
It sounds like a most interesting man in the world name.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound made up like Evel Knievel.
But Dario Costa also sounds like a motorist name, like a race car driver, like trick pilot. Great name for what he is. He flew his plane through a tunnel in Istanbul, achieving the record for the longest tunnel flight ever.
I'd say half a mile. That sounds about right, I guess. I mean, there's some long tunnels. It flies plane from London to Paris all the way underneath the English Channel. But I don't think it was that long. Maybe it was. Still, I'm going to go with half a mile, which is about 2,600 feet. And what was this? What was the size of the wingspan again?
20 inches, 50 centimeters.
I'm going to say, oh, wow, this is probably definitely going to be wrong. But we'll go with it. 1,560 wingspans of this bird.
Final answer.
The length of this tunnel they flew through. Yep.
You're half right, and thus full wrong. They are...
I got second place.
3,460 wingspans. The tunnel was 1,730 meters, or 5,675 feet. So,
if I'd gone with a full mile, it would have been really close.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, that's on our LDT Facebook page, I now follow the Guinness book because we talk about Guinness so much and records that I saw the video of it, and the way the video is cut, it's like a fast cut Facebook video, and he just goes through it and it's quickly, but you're spending a good amount of time in that tunnel flying for a mile.
Any tiny deviation could get you killed.
You're right. But also, I imagine the winds in a tunnel are also really unpredictable for a little plane.
True.
Wow.
Or maybe they're super predictable. Who knows?
Maybe. But I would imagine wind whipping through it at different speeds would send you up a little bit, down a little bit.
Yeah, that's terrifying. I'll never do it.
Yeah. Let's talk weight. They're 39 to 52 grams, or 1.4 to 1.8 ounces. So how many least terns go into the mass of the Earth's core?
Why?
Whenever something is very not from a specific area, I gotta go to space.
But you're doing the opposite of going to space.
True. But the reason that they know this comes from space. So here's a hint. They figured out the weight of the Earth and its core by studying a mysterious particle from space called neutrinos. Are you familiar with neutrinos? They're all the rage.
They're delicious.
In science. There should be a science-based cereal for kids called neutrinos.
Also, I love the childish neutrinos rap music songs.
Oh my gosh. So these particles are both tiny and invisible, but they crash down into and through the Earth all the time. It's estimated that around 50 trillion neutrinos from the sun crash through your body every second.
I hate it.
They are also able to pass through the Earth, straight through it. They don't interact with light, and they're barely touched by gravity, but huge, massive objects like planets can cause them to interact with other particles. So there's a place in Antarctica called the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory, and it's called the Ice Cube because it's in Antarctica and it's cube-shaped.
And because Ice Cube is the only one allowed to operate the machinery.
Yes, he's the director. Probably not.
Probably not. You're right.
I'm not all knowing. I don't know for a fact that he's not, but he's probably not. So this observatory can detect neutrinos that pass through the Earth, as in at the pole, at the North Pole, all the way to the Antarctica. So theoretically, the more massive the Earth is, the fewer neutrinos will make it through. So there's a lot more to it, I'm sure, but that's all I need to know that that's how they calculated the Earth's core mass.
All right, I'm going to say 4 quadrillion. That's my answer.
4 quadrillion.
Of these birds would make up the Earth's core. The weight of it.
A Hail Mary.
Yep, absolutely Hail Mary. No, there's no estimation or critical thinking happening here.
Okay.
Because there's no way I'm going to be able to even get close. I have no base to start from.
Final answer.
Yep.
It's 52.3 septillion least terns. The core is 6 septillion pounds, or 2.72 kilograms.
That was a Hail Mary pass that went like 20 yards.
Kilograms. I mean, 2.72 septillion kilograms, I think I meant to say.
That's a lot. It's a big, big number.
With lots and lots of digits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we could play football.
Yeah.
With the Hail Mary pass I just made.
Yeah. So that's not the wrongest you've ever been, but it's like up there. It's like top 10 probably.
Yes. And it's all your fault.
Would you like to hear some fast facts before we get into the major fact?
Yep.
So least terns are seabirds, but they're smaller than their average kin. They're beach kin. They like to eat small bait fish, crustaceans, and sometimes they eat insects. But they said that the insects were associated with El Niños. So for whatever reason, they like to eat bugs when the weather is different. Least terns hunt by diving into tidal water or calm water to catch small fish close to the surface. They migrate back and forth between North and South America. They breed and nest in the spring and summer on North American coasts, both coasts, and they head down for the fall and winter. They head down to South America. So they tend to nest close to one another, and they just lay eggs in small indentations in the sand. Burrowing owls, gull-billed terns, and American kestrels often disturb their nests.
That's where you got it.
Other birds, including cats, other predators, including cats, coyotes, bobcats, feral dogs, great blue herons, and other birds of prey, also predate upon them. As a whole, least terns are of least concern when it comes to conservation. But there are a few subspecies that are considered threatened at the state level, and the California least tern was listed as an endangered species in 1972. Their main threat is habitation loss because they just deposit their little eggs on the sand. So you build a nice little condominium or a resort on the beach, and they lose some of their nesting grounds.
Makes sense.
It does. But that's all I got.
All right. The major fact for this episode is called Ants Don't Serve Grasshoppers.
They serve uncles.
That's super misogynistic of you.
I mean, the grasshoppers were bad guys. What can I tell you?
So when you're a little bird in a big world, you can't just rely on your own chutzpah to get by. You need a crew that is willing to go the extra mile on your feet. I'm working on it. Yeah. Got to get the phlegm in there if you want to speak German, Arabic, or Yiddish. But your crew needs to be willing to go the extra mile on your behalf, or just because you said so. When it comes to fight, flight, or freeze, which is what animals and people employ when they're when they encounter a threat, you'd think that flight would be option numero uno for a bird. But terns have figured out that there is strength in numbers. Hence the ants don't serve grasshoppers thing. So if you're a predator or just an intruder, things can easily take a turn for the worst. In fact, if you even look like you could be a problem, prepare to feel the turn. That's 2 in a row. I'm done. Terns use a defensive tactic called mobbing to handle these kinds of threats. And as I was writing this, it occurred to me that like the mafia, like extortion-focused organized crime, is called the mob. But their whole thing is that they're discreet and organized, which those are two things I do not associate with like a mob, an actual mob. It's just an odd thing I was thinking about. It's like, how is the mafia the mob, and then also like Occupy Wall Street a mob?
I don't know. I'm sure there's some etymological reason for that.
Or organization just is the key differentiating thing. Anyway, so mobbing for birds mostly involves sounding an alarm and then flying at and around an intruder to harass them until they go away. So a bunch of terns will dive bomb the threat, scratching and pecking when they can, though specifically least terns tend to avoid making contact. They kind of just swoop in and intimidate. And since most predators that prey on birds, like the ones you were mentioning, cats, small mammals, owls, raptors, herons, things like that, since they tend to rely on stealthy or speedy ambushes when they're predating on things, having a bunch of birds cawing and flying around you can really put a damper on your little blitzkrieg that you got going on. So also a bunch of terns mobbing a target will often encourage other species of birds to join in. And since that's because terns are far from the only birds to engage in this kind of behavior. So actually the ones that do it the most often are crows. But seabirds like terns and gulls have it down to a science. They're very effective. But it can get out of hand. Because in fact, birds with a tendency to mob will join in on the fun just because everyone else is doing it. They may not even know what the threat is. They may just start mobbing whatever is happening. And that's why a bunch of birds will sometimes mob like a statue or a passerby or a conservative on Twitter. Oh!
Is that why you called it Twitter?
Yeah, I called it Twitter because it not only does it have to do with birds, but also it's just like a feeding frenzy. Like it's like buying loads of toilet paper last year. Like just one person sounded the alarm, and then just everyone just went bananas, not really knowing what was going on.
They didn't go bananas. They went like poultry and beef and then toilet paper.
But the toilet paper logic will tie into this even going forward. So if you've ever seen, you actually see mobbing probably pretty often. If you've ever seen a hawk or something being chased by 5 or 6 blackbirds, you've seen mobbing happening. It's just basically smaller birds taking on a much larger bird by harassing it. But like I said, seafaring birds like gulls, fieldfares, and terns have the most effective strategies, and they're often they mob in the greatest numbers, and they're also really loud. And so you might think that these mobsters are putting themselves in danger. You just think like I remember like sometimes when I'd see these situations where like a hawk or an eagle was getting chased by a bunch of tiny little birds. I was like, just turn around and kill them. They're right there. Like they don't really pose a threat to you. But animals in general, and predators included, tend to avoid fights specifically when it comes to food. Not so much when it comes to mating, but when it comes to getting a meal, fighting something is not really a good idea because you have to get meals a lot every day for most animals. And if it had to be a fight every time, there wouldn't be a lot of those animals left.
Unless you're like a big prey animal predator, that's pretty much the only recourse you have because you need big prey.
Yeah, but even then, they do everything they can to reduce the amount of fight that they'd have to go through. It's not like a lion doesn't, want a fair fight with a gazelle or something like that. It's
very true.
Ambush, break the neck. Let's get this over with. And lions are known for inhumane killing methods. So just listen to our lion episode. So if it looks like a predator will either not be able to get its prey, possibly lose an eye or something like that, or if it'll just be more of a hassle than usual, predator will probably be pretty likely to just leave and find an easier target. But the real thing that sets gulls and terns apart from other mobbing birds is the common tactic of actually just pooping on the predator. Just flying over them and just giving them the squirts.
Oh my gosh.
Which is why toilet paper logic isn't a bad idea.
So, like, we always think about birds doing stuff like that intentionally, dive bombing, but in the back of my mind, I'm always like, they don't know what they're doing. They're just going.
Yeah, they just poop whenever they have to. But nope, they'll save it up just for special occasions.
My goodness.
So, yeah, and when it comes to mobbing other birds, like birds of prey and things like that, it can get to the point where they can't even fly anymore. They're grounded because of how much poop they have on them.
Oh my gosh.
So it's pretty effective, I have to say. And because it's tough to think of a species of bird that does more pooping than gulls and terns and things like that, then I can see how just it would be like an owl flying in, like, hey, I'm gonna snatch a quick meal, and then suddenly looking like it was dipped in wax.
Oh my gosh.
Although I haven't, that's not the case. It's like that's hyperbole. I haven't seen any pictures of a bird just being like just unrecognizable, but it does like gum up their feathers and increase their weight to the point where they can't fly until they get it washed off or something.
Yeah, I mean, flight is a delicate procedure.
Yeah. So just, barely changing anything about the physics can make it really difficult for birds to fly, and having dozens of birds poop on you will definitely change your physics up a little bit.
And your morale.
Yeah, you may not even want to fly anymore, really.
It's like, I just want to like nap. Get this out of my system.
Definitely need a shower.
Once I clean up, I have to like recover mentally.
Yeah, you're gonna need a little bit of therapy.
Yeah.
And possibly a career change. I'd say just branching off and striking off in a completely different direction if you've been pooped on excessively to the point where you can't even do your primary function. But that's all I got for the least tern.
That's all I got.
All right. So, for you out there in podcasting, keep a paranoid eye out for threats. Stick with your tribe and viciously attack whatever anyone else is attacking, like the least tern here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Hey Taxonomy Titans, thanks for listening to the episode. Just a few quick things. As always, reviews and social media engagement are greatly appreciated, but recommending the podcast to friends is the best way to help us grow. If you'd like some LDT flavored merch, check out teespring.com/stores/taxonomy-tees. That's it. Thanks for listening all the way to the end.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
Dang, that was very topical.